All right. So barely kind of touched onto we're going to start talking about an equation of a line. So how to represent mathematically in an equation or in a formula what a line looks like. Um, I know that doesn't sound all that important, but it's super duper important, at least when we're doing math. Um, is one of the things probably what we're going to be doing the most all this semester is working with different parts of this. So we went ahead and we started talking about this mx plus b, y equals mx plus b. We call this the slope intercept form, and it's gonna be like the basis of what we're gonna be talking about a lot of times. So when we graph a line, we want it to be in this form. So if we think about our formulas, this is just another formula. So if we have a point, we put the y in there, and that's going to equal our m. And as we recall, m is slope, x, so we just put the point of our x there, plus b. And b stands for our y-intercept, or where the point where our line touches the y-axis. So the up, down, the vertical axis. What's that point? And that's going to be our point for that. Now, there's going to be another form that we talk about in a little bit, but right now that y equals mx plus b, we're just going to plug things into it right now. So like I said, we know our y, we know our m, so we might have to solve for our m, but once we solve for our m, we plug it in. We know our x, we plug it in. The b, we have a tendency not to know what it is, but we'll also cover a little bit today of if we have a point, how to solve for that as well. So just a reminder that m is our slope and b is the y-intercept. So if we were to write the equation of the line through 8 minus 2, where m equals 0, that's it, we're done. Mainly because our m equals 0. And so if you recall from when we were talking about slope, if our slope equals 0, that's just a flat horizontal line. But we can go ahead and still start plugging in items into the y equals mx plus b, and we'll see why it kind of cancels out. So just for practice, write out y equals mx plus b. So we're going to start off with the y. Well, our y is -2, so we'll plop -2 in where the y should be, equals m. Our m is 0, x, our x is 8. So when the m and the x are together, that means slope times the x, or 0 times 8, plus b. We don't know what the b is, so we're just going to leave the letter b, and we're going to use our algebra skills to solve for b. Well, the easiest thing to do is to start off with the 0 times 8, because 0 times 8 is 0, and so we just get rid of that. We don't have to worry about it. So now we're left with -2 equals b. Boom, there's our answer. Our y-intercept is -2. So it was that simple, and largely because our slope was 0. So it really eliminates a lot of what we have to do. So we like our slopes to be 0 as far as having to do math. Zeros multiplying by 0 in so many forms of math makes it easy. So it's almost like one of the first things, if you follow your order of operations, but definitely take advantage of the 0. If you see that 0, multiplying by something is generally going to clear up a lot of our actual math we have to work out, and make it a lot easier for us to do it. And so just again, slope equaling 0 means that the line is horizontal. And in this case, when we solved it, it crosses y at -2. So it means it's a horizontal line at -2 on the y-axis. So we go down 2 spaces to the y, kind of put a dot there is what I would do, and then draw a perfectly horizontal line across, which means it's automatically gonna hit 8. It's gonna hit all the numbers, so it's infinite in both directions. But it's kind of the quick and easy way to take care of that problem. And I'm still waiting for the PowerPoint to move, so I'm going to jump out of this. We're going to do it this way so it can move a whole lot quicker. So, like I said, there's another form too of how we normally graph a line. And so this is called a point slope form. And we use point slope form, we have a point and a slope. So this one's a little more, it's not that complicated, but we're gonna have our good friends here, y1, x1. When we're using this form, and again, I would, along with the formulas as we're going through, I would just keep a list of these formulas on your desk when you're doing math so you can quickly reference them. I don't think there's a big need to memorize them. When you're referencing them, they're going to eventually stick. So you're eventually going to know y equals mx plus b. So keep it there. And start off, like, write out the formula whenever you're working on something. And then we're just going to start off by plugging things in. Now, what makes this a bit different when we're plugging things in is that we have a y minus y1. Okay, so what does that mean? What it means is that, like, we're going to plug things into the y1 and the x and the x1. That's our point. We're literally going to leave the y and the x as a y and an x. So we're going to leave those alone. We're going to plug in the y1 and the x1 based on the point we have. But as far as the y and the x, that is going to remain a y and an x. And when we do an example, you'll see how that kind of works out. But we're going to start off, if we have a point, we'll put in our y point, we'll put in our x point in the appropriate places there. And then again, the y and the x stay by themselves. So they just stay as y and x. And then we'll either be given a slope or we'll have to solve for slope. And then we just plug that in. So let's take a look at an example. So graph a line that has AM equals -1/2. So we're given the slope in this example, which is great. That's the slightly less work we have to do, and runs through the point 2, -2. So we have an x coordinate and a y coordinate. So we start off by writing down our formula. Now we're not going to try to, so don't think of the math right now. Right now, we're just replacing values. We're replacing the variables with the values. So let's not think about math. Let's just plug things in. So that means I want to plug in my y. My y is -2. So I'm going to plug in -2 there. We have our lovely minus, but we'll take care of that on the next step. Right now, we're just plugging things in. We know our m. Our m is -1/2. Okay, we'll put it there. This x stays. So then we plug in our x coordinate, and so it's going to go right there. So we end up having y minus -2 equals -1/2 times x minus 2. Now, if you're a little rusty on your distributive property, let me know. But also, simple YouTube search on how to work the distributive property. This is going to be something very important, especially with this slope point form that we're going to be using. So now we do the math. So y minus minus 2. So we know that the negative and the negative make a positive. So now we have y plus 2. We're going to do a negative 1/2 times x, and this is the example of the distributive property. Negative 1/2 x, or negative 1/2 times x is going to be negative 1/2 x. Negative 1/2 times 2 times negative 2 is going to be positive 1. And so then we have that set up, and we're going to do a little algebra. We want to remember the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. So let's get that 2 away so that it starts looking like the y equals mx plus b. And the way to do that is to get the y by itself. So we want to get rid of that 2, so y is all by itself. Well, this is plus 2. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. So let's subtract 2 from both sides. And if I subtract 2 from 2, it's 0. And I'm going to end up with y by itself, which is exactly what I wanted. Now I'm subtracting 2, but I'm only doing it from the other whole number. I can only subtract a whole number from a whole number. I can only subtract variables with variables. So I'm subtracting 2 from 1. So if we think about our number line, we're going left 2 places. So 0, negative 1. So now I'm left with the equation of a line, which is exactly what I wanted. Y equals negative 1/2 x minus 1. So that means that y is going to equal the slope of negative 1/2 x minus 1. So, and remember, we reviewed what direction a negative line goes in, and that exactly matches up. Our y-intercept is negative 1, which is exactly where it runs across the y-axis. So we kind of validated it at the same time of kind of just looking at it. So that's how we're going to go from point slope form into our standard y equals mx plus b. This takes practice. And I really want you to follow those steps of like write the formula, plug in the values, don't think about the math yet. Then do the math, which usually involves isolating y. And so practicing those algebraic skills to get the final y equals mx plus b. Now, sometimes, so x-intercept is the same thing as a y-intercept, except it's where it crosses the x-axis. To find an x-intercept, you set y to 0. To find a y-intercept, you set x to 0, and then do a little bit of math, and we'll take a look at that. So in this example, we have an equation of 5x minus 6y equals 30. So to find an x-intercept, we set y to 0. So 5x minus 6 times 0 equals 30. So negative 6 times 0 is 0. And then we're going to use our algebraic skills. We're left with 5x equals 30. We're going to use our algebraic skills to isolate the x. So we have 5x, which is 5 times x, the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 just gives us x, because 5 by 5 is 1. 30 divided by 5 is 6, so x equals 6. All right, and now we can find the y-intercept by setting x to 0. So we're taking the exact same equation. We're making x 0. So 5 times 0 is 0. So we're left with negative 6y equals 30. And we're going to do the exact same concept. We're going to try to get y all by itself. So negative 6y means negative 6 times y. The opposite of multiplication is division. We're going to divide both sides by negative 6. Negative 6 divided by negative 6 is y. So and that's exactly what we wanted. We were solving for y. But now, since we did it on one side, we have to do it the other. 30 divided by negative 6 is 5. Negative 5, because we're dividing a positive by a negative, and we do the whole, if it's positive negative, it stays negative. And so y equals negative 5. And that's how we solve for y-intercepts. But in what we went over today, the two important things are the equation of the line, the y equals mx plus b, and then the point slope intercept form to get us to y equals mx plus b. And that both of those are going to take some practice. Now, before I end this section of the video, just a little trivia. When we write a 4-digit numeral, wow, lost the ability to talk there. When we're writing a 4-digit numeral in digits other than a date, in America, writers never use a comma, but British writers usually do. And I don't like the word never because I usually use a comma. It makes it easier to see. But it's up to you when we're using 4 digits. I prefer you use a comma. It just makes it easier to see. But I will see you in the next video where we start talking about inequalities. And we'll take it from there. So, see you in the next video.